Welcome to the Rich Flow of Life podcast. Join Valerie Kanay, the award-winning authority author, as she takes you on a journey for your personal evolution. Valerie Kanay talks to enlightened featured guests who hold the keys to unlock your unique life situation. They each bring to the table their very powerful personal spin to inspire and empower you to learn to step up your game into the rich flow of life.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Valerie Kanay, and today our featured guest is Marsha Lecour. Marsha is the award-winning author of the book Hepatitis C, and it's about the 7 simple strategies to shift from surviving to own personal experiences about this blood-borne virus that she contracted many years ago from a blood transfusion during an open heart surgery as a very young child. For Marsha tells me that she triumphed over this, and now it is her mission to teach, train, and empower others in the hepatitis C community to learn to thrive by following a systematic series of simple single action steps to improve the quality of your life with a whole brand new fresh perspective and with a whole new natural outlook on life that you've never seen before or thought was possible. She has written a master blueprint how to live day to day, and like we said before, thrive. So on that note, welcome, Marsha, to our program.
Oh, so glad to be here, Valerie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so overjoyed, actually.
We're overjoyed to have you because, like we say all the time, there's so many people out here that have all sorts of information about all kind of things in life. And for the ones that stand up like the true champions and say, I'm going to teach, train, empower other people, it's just really phenomenal. So you're a really phenomenal person. I salute and applaud you on that.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much.
So I know that you just recently had addressed the national conference in Canada. Tell us about that.
Yes, so that was back in February in Montreal, Quebec, and I was actually approached by my own liver doctor, Dr. Jordan Feld, who asked if I wanted to address, the conference about my lived experience with hepatitis C. And so it really gave a perspective to the doctors from a patient's point of view. You know, the medical community has their perspective as researchers, as hepatologists, as liver specialists. And I think getting a fresh perspective from a patient really gives a new dimension of, from the perspective of the patient. And so it was well received. I hope to see more of this at, both local, national, and international conferences, the perspective from the patient.
Mm-hmm. And I bet a lot of that had to do, too, because you wrote the book.
Yes, exactly.
So tell us what made you decide to write the book.
Well, at age 4, I had contracted hepatitis C from a blood transfusion during open heart surgery. And then a couple of years ago, I went through 48 weeks of what they call triple therapy using conventional methods of medication. And it was, I guess you could say in some ways you could compare it to going through treatment for cancer with side effects like hair loss, nausea, anemia, depression. And at the end of treatment after 48 weeks, I was really a basket case. And I thought, if people are going through this as a patient, then how does one get their life back? Because I really, through trial and error, was able to get my life back. And I can say now I am fully thriving 2 years later.
Very cool. Awesome. And, I know in the hepatitis community, it's not a subject that people are just so freely and open to talk about. It's probably why the conference wanted to speak with you to know what made you so sharing about, the whole thing, because a lot of people are kind of hush-hush when they come to Hep C. So they open you up. And so one of the things that you talk about is the thriving part of that, which is really incredible. And so this is a way so that people can now not feel so shunned back about the whole subject matter. Do you somewhat agree with that?
Absolutely. It doesn't really matter how a person contracted hepatitis C.
Right.
The point is, what are you going to do about it moving forward? And I think 2 things are really important. One, people get tested, especially those born between 1945 to 1975, because that's the age cohort that is up to 5 times more likely to be at risk. Because when you go back during that time, medical procedures in terms of sterilization for medical equipment was not what it is today. There were maybe the sharing of needles for vaccination or what have you.
Whatever, right.
Right, so things are much more strict today in terms of sterilization.
Mm-hmm. So the key idea of your book, you're talking about making that big shift from just surviving to really thriving in hepatitis C. And that is a really big shift because, like we're saying, although it is a medical condition, but the mental part that goes with that, with all of the, like you said, hair loss from the treatments and the various things that just causes mental suffering on people. So how do you take them from that, Marsha?
Well, as you probably know, there's a very intimate connection between the mind so the mind has a direct impact on the body, and in turn, the body has a direct influence on the mind. So what is happening in the body is going to influence the mind. So I found personally, and I find this with a lot of people, for lack of a better phrase, people adopt a hepatitis C mindset. And so when you have hepatitis C, for most people, for 75% of the population or more, it becomes chronic, meaning it's not like a cold that will disappear in 2 or 3 weeks. Many people end up having hepatitis C for years. And once they're diagnosed with it, your mindset shifts because you realize it can lead to death if people are not treated and if people don't look after themselves. It's the leading cause of liver cancer right now. And I think, so when people start adopting new skill sets around their mind, like, for example, there's a simple exercise that people can say every day just by looking in the mirror. I just call it the mirror exercise. Now, it's going to sound strange, but for example, if a person looks in the mirror, holds up a mirror and says, "I love you, Marsha, unconditionally." When you start saying that a few times a day and you do it every day, it becomes a habit. Initially, a person is going to be uncomfortable, just like learning any new skill. You have to stretch outside your comfort zone in order to start feeling comfortable. And I think the mind is the most important factor in any health situation. Once you can start working with your mind to start making the shift, then that's really the foundation.
Okay, so you go inward first.
Yeah, inward is very important. Inward is very important. Just like Dr. Mark Hyman makes the point that the food, he said, food is intelligent. And he said the food talks to your cells and it can turn on switches for either you to get healthy or not healthy. So processed food, for example, would turn on switches that would lead in the opposite direction of getting healthy. Whereas good quality, unprocessed food in its natural state is going to talk to the cells and say, okay, let's get healthy, turns on those switches. And that in turn affects the mind. And I don't think conventional medicine in the Hep C community does not talk too much about the influence of the mind on the body and the body on the mind. Now, there's a Dr. Bernie Siegel, who was a surgeon, he's retired now, did a lot of work with cancer patients. And he really emphasizes this intimate connection between the body and the mind and the mind and the body. And he had his cancer patients meditate, do some exercise, and visualization. And visualization, based on, visualizing or seeing, where you're using the imagination, you're creating an image in your mind. How do you want to be at the end of hepatitis C? You want it cured. So you hold that image in your mind of you being healthy. It's just like children use their imagination all the time.
All the time. Adults do also, believe it or not. We're doing it even with the unhealthy and the sickness. You're imagining it. Everything you're thinking is actually your thoughts, and you're imagining it as you go. So all you're saying is flip it around, flip the script. Right.
Exactly.
And imagine the opposite,
right.
Because you're doing it. Yeah.
Yes. And the same principle is used in sports psychology. If a coach has a professional athlete, then he's going to have that athlete imagine in the minutest detail crossing the finish line. And so that athlete creates a mind movie of him or her winning and crossing the finish line. And that becomes normally their reality. It's no different, I think, than in the hepatitis C community.
And no difference. And the only difference is that sometimes people are at a lower state of mind, that they've been suffering and have been ill for so long that it might not work so fast, or it can be as fast as you willing to put in the efforts into it, right?
Right. And
Okay.
the critical point is just to take the first step, regardless of where you're at.
Just the first step.
The first step.
The first step. So that's really cool, Marsha, because, everybody knows there's so many things we have to contend with life. And so the Hep C community is definitely something, like I say, the work that you're doing is just brilliant, because I love to see people that stand up to make the difference in people's lives and say, look, I've lived through this, so I know exactly what you're dealing with. It's not like you some outsider conjuring up stuff or making things up. You've actually had to live with it as of what recently is 2 years ago you were cured?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And how did that come about?
Well, there was a 65% chance that the hepatitis C virus, it is a virus, would be removed from the body. And here's another thing. I had 3 goals before I started treatment. One of them was to get cured. 2 of them was to listen to the music every day of my favorite music group, which are the Tenors. I'm putting a plug in here for the Tenors. And 3, that I would continue to eat as healthy as I could when I was able to keep food down.
And so that's how it happened for you. So like you say, you've written in the book, The Master Blueprint, which I think is so cool. You say the Master Blueprint. And if you do these things that are easy to follow, everyday practical things, then you too can have a great shot at this, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing too, it has relevance for anyone, regardless of where they're at in their health, with their health. It just improves your quality of life. And if a person does not have their health, then the rest doesn't matter. I say your health is your wealth.
Your health is your wealth.
It's the foundation of everything else.
Mm-hmm. And I also read too, Marsha, where you say when you love your liver, your life gets better. What made you come up with that?
I don't know. I think one day I just thought, I want to have a tagline. Oh, love your liver. Okay. It incorporates a lot of things. Love your liver, and your liver will love you back.
Okay, because that's the interesting concept. So many people, and they know different modalities about, the body and stuff like that. And we had the body whisperer on who teaches and talks about loving the different parts of your bodies and getting the organs to communicate with each other. So this is the same thing that you're saying about, her name was Louise. And so this is the same sort of thing that you're talking about, that the body, the organs can hear, right? They know.
Yes. And that's an interesting point. Let me take that point further. The liver currently has more than 500 functions that it performs within the body. So if you can imagine one organ having 500 jobs to do, that means that it is talking to all parts of the body. It's a big organized system within the body. They're all interconnected, just like human beings are all interconnected. The body would be on a micro level, let's say, or a smaller level. The human community, the human race, is just a larger representation of what goes on with, the connections between the body and the cells and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is so neat. It is so cool. So yours is a lot about taking positivity of the mindset and of the actions that you're doing every day and creating this life that you can really change around, like you say, really immediately. You don't have to go anywhere. It's not like you have to travel to another country. All this can be done right in the home, right?
Right. And the other piece I want to add too, the mind plays a very important role, and it's really important to have the physical body participating. That includes, daily stretching, daily movement or exercise, like walking or just doing a few gentle stretches just to get you started. So for example, at the end of the 48 weeks when I was doing treatment, I had been in bed towards the end and I just didn't have the energy to get up. And I thought, I can't continue like this, especially when treatment is over. So I thought, I'm going to start wiggling one toe. Now, that may sound really ridiculous, but I wiggled one toe, and the next thing I knew, okay, let's try 2 toes. So I wiggled 5 toes on one foot and then started with the other 5 toes on the other foot. And the next thing I knew, I was able to sort of shift myself to the edge of the bed. So it was just taking those small, simple, single steps. That's a principle that can apply to any aspect of human life.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. And it's just like you said in the beginning, you just have to start from where you are. Doesn't matter what part of the process that you're in. If you want a healing, you got to start with where you are. So, Marsha, as our program comes to the end, I do want to have you send out your expressions of your final thoughts at this point, and then tell us how we can hook into you and get the help from you personally.
Okay, so I have a website that's up and running, and it's www.Marsha Lecour, and I'll spell that out. It's MarshaLecour.com. And people can give their name and email address and hook up with a great 3-part video series to get some simple, practical steps to start their journey on shifting from surviving to thriving. And the other thing I would do, I would invite people to, under the contact tab there, if they put in their name and email address, and I'll get back to them for a complimentary 15-minute session, a one-on-one session with me via Skype.
Marsha, that is wonderful. I mean, so considerate that you would just give out a complimentary session just to see where people are, what's the first step to take, and where you need to move from there, right?
Yes.
All right. So what's your final thought for anybody that's listening? Say, all that sounds really good and stuff, but I just don't quite know if I'm ready yet to make the first step, even contact you. What would you say to a person like that?
I would say go to Amazon.com or Amazon.ca and get the book. The book of Hepatitis C, 7 Simple Strategies to Shift from Surviving to Thriving After Hep C. And when you go to Amazon.com, you have a chance to sort of go through parts of the book. And people can get a taste and they can decide whether or not they want to get the book. It's available both as a soft cover and a Kindle version.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, very cool. So there you go. There's the answer.
Yep.
Start with the book first, or make the phone call. What did you give the phone number, Marsha?
No, they can contact me through the website under Contact Me.
Okay, very good. Under Contact Me.
Yeah. And sign up for the 3-part video series for some practical tips.
Mm-hmm. And what would some of those tips be just in general?
Well, one would be, for example, the mirror exercise that I was talking about. And I think another one is related to some kind of movement. And I think the other one is about food.
Okay, very good. So there you go. Everything is simple, basic, but they are very necessary and fundamental into getting that healing that you so desire. Marsha, I really appreciate you taking your time out to be with us. I don't take that lightly. And it's just been real nice. On that note, I want to say I love you dearly and goodbye.
Thank you for having me, Valerie.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now.
You have been listening to the Rich Flow of Life podcast with host Valerie Kanay. We're most appreciative you took the time to be with us, and thank you. For more action, go subscribe to Valerie Kanay Talks YouTube channel and like us on Facebook at Valerie Kanay Talks and follow us on Twitter at Valerie Kanay. Until next time, we love ya.